Real quick before we get started, I'll be using a character I generated from a pic crew designed by Kurehii for my PNG Tuber for this video. I just wanted to give them thanks for allowing me to do that. I will be focusing on transitioning to one that I have drawn myself, but in the meantime, I'll throw their Twitter and pic crew link into the description below. So it has been a long time since I've properly watched any anime. If I have, it would only be on very rare occasion. I went from being a pretty consistent watcher of anime to someone who could only watch anime if it was a short series to someone who pretty much exclusively watches anime movies. Movies tell one concise story in the span of a couple of hours. It's condensed, easily digestible, it's something you can repeat on various occasions, and it's also just way easier to share the experience with friends who don't typically watch anime nor necessarily have the time to watch one long series. For the longest time, I was that person who just didn't have the time to watch it anymore because I was always doing something, and anime requires your attention to watch it, so you can probably imagine that I also don't really watch TV in general, and you might be right. However, last year, something pretty incredible happened. I just found myself able to sit down and fall in love with anime all over again, and I have the most absurd anime to thank. Alright, so here are the rules here. I'm going to list off a group of anime that I watched last year in the order that I remember having watched them. The next rule, we all have different things that we enjoy. I may have strong opinions about your favorite or least favorite anime. Let's agree that these are just my opinions and don't necessarily reflect my views of anyone who enjoys them, because I like it when people can enjoy things, even if it's something I don't particularly like. The last thing I think I should mention before I start, because I feel like I have to mention it anymore, is that I am an adult human who is able to discern fiction from reality. The things that I enjoy in fiction are not an endorsement of the same things in real life, and occasionally, I actually will judge an anime with a real-life lens when that anime tries to communicate that it grounds itself as such. This might also cause me to seemingly contradict myself in my tastes in anime, but that's all part of being a human being, I guess, so let's get started with our list of anime. We're gonna start off strong here with the anime that is probably going to be the biggest turnoff to people watching this. To be honest though, I don't really understand the pure hatred I see for this show online. It feels pretty tame to me, especially if you're comparing it to something like High School DxD, at least compared to other anime with gratuitous fan service that would otherwise detract from the plot. This anime isn't pretending to be something that it's not. It knows what it is and embraces it. It knows it's trashy, and I know that I am too for watching it. So let's just start off with saying that me and Hiragi, I feel strong kinship with her. She's such a little loser and I love her. We both love magical girls, and we both channel our love and admiration for them into something within the realm of Rule 34. I'm sorry, I watched Sailor Moon when I was younger and realized that I had an unsettling attraction to seeing them tied up, restrained, and occasionally super exhausted. That was an awakening for me that I wasn't quite sure what to do with, and for Utena Hiragi, that's kind of the situation that she's unwillingly thrust in, and that's why I love this show. She doesn't want to fight her idols, but she kinda has to. She's a villain now. All because she thought she was going to have her chance to become a magical girl herself, only to find out that she was scouted by the side of evil. Well, what are you gonna do, right? She's being forced to. What I love about her character is how she tends to push the girls, toy with them for her own twisted amusement, but always hopes for them to be victorious in the end. Being the villain means she has the luxury to withdraw and admire the victory won by her heroes, and she gets to be up close and personal with them. It's the perfect gig. It sort of backfires a little bit in a way that makes me actually feel kind of bad for Magia Azur, but it does work out. Despite being an ecchi anime, it pulls out some surprisingly wholesome moments between all the characters, and it makes me happy for Utena, who goes from basically a nobody to somebody who has friends. It's really sweet. I also really love how, despite being a villain, Utena as Magia Baser puts her love of magical girls above all else and personally takes down someone within her circle of evildoers who pride themselves as a magical girl hunter. Seeing her go off is absolutely wonderful. It brings out something of a sadistic side in me. I think I just live vicariously through her. I mean, look at that outfit. If I had the money and got into better physical shape, I would flaunt that cosplay. My one warning is that this anime engages in a lot of kinks. Some of them I'm definitely not into, but their willingness to explore these things is kind of interesting, honestly. I hear it's getting picked up for season 2, so I'm really excited for that. I started off strong in the world of Yuri, but I'm just now realizing that being a Yuri fan is painful. Strawberry Panic is absolutely beautiful. When Nagisa joins an all-girls school, she is immediately sought after by the Étoile, the star student, if you will, Shizuma, and these two have a daring will-they, won't-they relationship that grows over time as they eventually get closer and bond over things they have in common. And as time goes on, Nagisa actually becomes pretty popular in her own right. Makes me pretty proud of her because she started off very uncertain of herself. There's 2 other couples in this anime that I think I should mention. Hikari, a quiet choir girl, and Amane, a very princely girl who rides horseback. And their relationship is probably the one I found myself the most interested in. Don't get me wrong, I wanted to see Shizuma and Nagisa press faces, but I can't help but root for sweet, innocent Hikari. And of course, that's where the last couple comes into play. The villain couple. Interestingly enough, the couple that has the most action happening between each other. I think they share the most kisses and have the most sex of any other couple in this show. And despite this, they both scheme to take Amane's spot as nominee of Étoile by trying to rape Hikari? No! Stop that! Stop it! This might be the first proper Yuri I've seen that isn't the anime I just talked about, and I was very satisfied with it. But it also simultaneously made me feel really sad for all the girls who didn't get picked. If only they could just be in one big polycule. As far as anime go, this one's shortcomings feel more apparent to me. The anime doesn't really have a particular focus. It doesn't exactly put its characters first, if that makes sense. The character relationships didn't feel particularly strong. We only really got to see our main girl get close to just one of the others, and I don't know where to pinpoint the exact issue. When it was all said and done, and we get this heartbreaking final scene, that's when I knew this should have just been a movie. I don't feel like we, as an audience, got to adequately fall in love with these characters to the capacity we needed to. This moment was supposed to be devastating, and I absolutely wanted it to be. Our girl Riko sucks at fighting, which is pretty funny. She's never fought before. However, she also never improves as the series progresses either. And there's a bit at the end where this is actually capitalized on, but they remove all the suspense. I think if they balance the sense of urgency and prioritize getting the girls to really connect with one another under the pressure of what's going on around them, took out the part where the old guy in the mask is like, well, actually, the self-destruct will bring her no harm, and then I think this might have worked better. If the creators want to retry this anime, make it a movie and aim to make this moment hurt, and you've got a solid anime. Fuck this show. I remember a while back I read the manga and I was really engaged with the plot. I really enjoyed the conflict the main character got himself involved in, and I love the character of his handler. Sadly, I didn't have access to the manga after a certain chapter, and I was hopeful that it was currently an anime. Alas, it was not. So when I saw this title, I immediately knew I had to watch it. It really gives me strong feelings as someone who wishes they also had a restart in their life. It made me realize that what I long for when I watch all these anime featuring students in high school is companionship. I really miss having friends to spend my time with, to make the everyday struggle in my life feel worth it. So perhaps I'm being emotionally biased here. However, I cannot help but love how they utilize dramatic irony to up the stakes between the two main test subjects. Neither one of them knows about the other, and by the end of the experiment, while they would normally retain their memories of the ReLIFE experiment, memories of a test subject are erased, meaning they'd be forced to forget one another. The anime takes a lot of care to build up their relationship with each other so that this impact is really felt. and it makes the following OVA feel so strong as a result. In contrast to our previous entry, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this one. Remake Our Life follows the life of a guy who works hard but ends up taking losses in any project he has a hand in. This causes him to wish that he'd taken a different path in life, and he's granted that very wish. Time is reversed 10 years and he ends up going to school with the very artists who inspire him. The problem is, he ends up making decisions that ultimately cause them to give up on their artistic aspirations, and the anime just leaves us with this horrible cliffhanger as he jumps 10 years back into the future in a life he knows nothing about. And instead of taking what he learned from the past and applying it to the future he left, he now has to deal with the broken pieces of his new timeline that he caused. Not a big fan. If there is a season 2, I might watch it, but I don't find this anime very favorable. So take this guy who lives in a world where racists live, forget that plotline, sorta, and throw him into a completely different world where he has been selected to fight a demon army. Oh, but wait, his stats suck. Or do they? He's perfectly fine not being needed as the hero, but they don't want to send him back home. Instead, they send him out to die, except he doesn't. He levels up defending himself and unwittingly becomes the strongest person in the entire world. By the way, you can see your stats in this world. I don't know how that works, but you just can. What I love about this anime is Fleo does not understand just how powerful he is. He thinks that because he arrives so weak, everything he can do is something everyone else can do too, which leads to the most amusing and honestly captivating start to this anime. Enter Fenris. She is the cute fox girl you see on the cover here. She is so enamored by Fleo because he's unwilling to kill her or enslave her. And the best part is, these two actually get married. And you know what? I'm so happy for her. Her happy smile when they seal the deal later on makes me so happy. I'm practically cheering her on whenever she gets to do stuff like that with her husband. It's great. Going back to Fleo, his love for Reese is just so strong. Like, he absolutely loses his mind when Reese is seemingly fatally wounded and he just goes off. Nobody gonna mess with my boy, that's for sure. Oh my gosh. So the main villain, with our boy so strong, he doesn't stand a chance, right? No, they don't even fight. The Demon King comes over for tea. They just chill together. The Demon Lord even starts crushing on the human who stood up to him. He's like, that's my kind of woman. And she is probably the only real reason he keeps swinging by. I love it. Can't wait for a season 2. The starting premise is fantastic. The people live on in peace, assuming that the ongoing war outside their walls is nothing to worry about. The government assures all of them that they fight humanely, only sending out autonomous units to fight. However, this is only true on paper. The reality is that these units all have pilots that are legally designated as undesirable subhumans, forced to fight for their lives in the 86th district. Their current handler is a young woman who is the only one who recognizes this as an injustice, and she hopes to establish a genuine bond with the 86. Obviously, the crew want more than kind words to fix the systematic wounds they suffer. The most interesting thing about this anime is the reflection on what it means to live, and it confronts the natural fear of dying, something that absolutely must be taken seriously for the 86ers, as dying means their bodies are taken as ransom in a way not too dissimilar from a scene straight out of the Voyage of the Gerald Shannara. I could talk far more about this anime at length because it is an anime that has a lot of rewarding moments, but I don't want to spoil anything. I highly recommend you see the journey with your own eyes. The premise of the show is a take on the internet meme that girls don't exist online. Now, we all know that isn't true, but we also know that catfishing happens and playing as a certain gender can be fun, or even gender affirming for some players. Of course, this show doesn't really explore any of that. The joke is just, oh, so she really is a girl. While the show can be fairly enjoyable at times, it's not because of the main heroine. It's because of swine. The main heroine suffers from not being able to discern fiction from reality in probably the most egregiously annoying way possible. That's the entire plot, and she never really ends up learning the difference. Instead, she almost gets enabled in her behavior. Aside from the initial gag that all the people online who say they're girls turn out to actually be girls, the show doesn't really do anything particularly interesting. Recovery of an MMO Junkie takes a hardworking woman who's recently quit her job and pits her against her own insecurities as she reestablishes an online presence. Playing as a guy named Hayashi, she meets a kind and soft-spoken mage named Lily, and the two form an online relationship with one another. It's a really cute anime. I love that the main characters are adults, and I like that the romance plot plays pretty straightforward. There's also a secret other thing about the plot that I'll just keep a secret as incentive to get you to watch it. It's a really cute show. If you're into that sort of thing, I promise you'll love it. Yeah, I'm including anime movies in this look. I like them. I'm not going to stop watching them. And honestly, this was a good watch. It really pulls at the heartstrings. It really asks, how far are you willing to go to get to something you've lost? What are you willing to leave behind to get it? And would it be worth it? It's a fantastic watch, and you should watch it too. Especially if you're a fan of romance. Personally, I'm a sucker for it. Blood Sea is a complicated one for me. I went into this hoping to see some super cool sword fighting from a goth schoolgirl. Even when it started and she was a cheery, happy-go-lucky girl, I was still fully prepared for her to go, gotcha, I can be a carefree spirit and a badass. What I got was, well, she sucks. Like, she is really bad at fighting. And often it's fairly unsatisfying to watch. Most people, I feel, are just here to watch the monsters gruesomely tear people apart, and if so, you're in luck, because there's a lot of that. An infuriating amount, I'd say. This girl says over and over again that she will not let anything bad happen to anyone, and we have an entire uninterrupted scene of a monster just slaughtering a classroom, and then it cuts back to her, still in the same spot. She puts up no fight whatsoever. The mystery of the show was what kept me going. Clearly, there was something the show was hiding, and I had a lot, and I mean a lot, of suspicions. I had an inkling that I knew the main villain of the show, but I was not prepared for the twist that involved her classmates, which altogether just makes this such a fascinating show. It's just too bad that it took until the last couple episodes for Saya to start actively trying to stop people from getting killed. At least with her being overwhelmed here and largely failing at protect everyone, she did try to put up a fight. It just left me a little dissatisfied. And that takes me to the movie, Blood Sea: The Last Dark. I loved it. There is a lot less gore, so if that's something you liked about the series, I'm sorry that it's missing here, I guess. But I like that it mostly focuses on the relationship between Saya and Mana. Everyone's motivations all make sense, even the main villains to some degree, even though I find his to be pathetic overall, but whatevs. It felt great to see Saya fully awakened and competent. She really upped her game since the series, so while I don't rate the series very high, I appreciate the legwork it put in for this movie. Kinda reminds me of Stephen King's Bag of Bones. So much crawling exposition, but you appreciate it for the understanding it gives you to the overall plot. I had seen some girl love anime, so I figured it would only be fair to give a BL a try. And I cannot recommend this anime enough. Sasaki and Miyano is such a beautiful anime about a boy reading his fiction as just a thing he likes, and he shares that thing with another boy who actually kinda has a thing for him, and he doesn't care that it's gay romance. In fact, he thinks some of the plots wouldn't work unless they were. Watching Sasaki wrestle with his feelings for Miyano is heartbreaking and honestly relatable. I felt myself move to tears so many times. something that I really appreciate is the character development that happens during the cross-dressing contest beat of the story. Sasaki shows at times that he can be a very jealous person, and it mixes into his protective side a bit, but he also understands there are boundaries. Even though he doesn't want Miyano to participate, and even explicitly asks him not to, he respects Miyano's decision to participate anyway. I contrast this with Maid-sama and how much I hate Takami Usui. He was generally okay at first, but his jealousy went way too far for my taste, and he practically assaults Misaki when she voices that she enjoys dressing like a guy during a cross-dressed maid cafe event. Left a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm glad that Sasaki didn't go that route. In fact, he's very critical of himself, and that was what made his struggle so engaging. It's a beautiful show. You should give it a watch. Tomo-Chan as a girl acts as a commentary on gender norms. Despite Tomo being a cis girl, I think trans girls can relate to her character just as much as tomboys can. You see, Tomo's personality gets her stuck in this odd place where she isn't really recognized as a girl by anyone, and she really wants to be seen as a girl, hence the title. Though I do think there's really only one person she truly wants to see her that way, and it's the guy she likes. It's worth a watch. If I'm gonna be totally honest, the show moved too slowly for me to really care to watch more than I did. And that's saying something. They introduced two girls, a mysterious connection, and like an incest triad. You'd think a scandalous combination like that would be interesting, but I'm pretty sure it's all tease and no substance. I'm gonna say something dumb here. I have a feeling this anime is actually really good. I was intrigued by the premise. A girl plays an online game that gives you a 1 in so many odds chance of actually becoming a magical girl? Oh, and wait, a boy magical girl? Heck yeah, that's so cool. Closest we're probably ever going to get to a trans magical girl. Unless you know a show I'm not aware of, then you're morally obligated to tell me, and you can't mention the Sailor Stars. The creator was pretty adamant they don't count, and honestly, I had never been more disappointed. At any rate, it felt fairly obvious by the end of the second episode that they were going to start actively killing off characters, so I dropped it out of wanting to preserve my poor, fragile heart. Look, I don't want to see them all die off. I already watched Madoka forever ago. I know where this goes. It's depression and accidentally triggering a panic attack over Walpurgis Night. I can't put myself through that again. I have such fond memories of Date Alive. I remember thinking that Toka was just precious and must be protected. And then season 2 happened, and even though some of the English voiceovers feel a little questionable, yes, I watched the dub, this moment right here.
I won't let you die! I don't care what happens to me, I swear! Whatever you do!
That's when I knew the actors were not pulling punches. They really go for it. I think what I was really drawn to was just how different Shido was from your typical harem protagonist. I don't know, I just really like him, and I love his relationship with Toka, and I love that he eventually sorta establishes that he dates all the spirits because he loves all of them and doesn't want them to be hurt. Since this anime is a little bit of a harem anime, there's gonna be your usual sus shots, if you know what I mean, and it spawned a fun little game between me and my friend while we were watching it. Anytime there was something a little gratuitous, we would both, in a very self-aware kind of way, comment on how necessary that shot was, poking fun of the anime out of love. As for why this anime is on the list, well, it's simple. I saw only up to season 2 the first time I watched it. There just wasn't any more. And my anime watching hiatus hit me really hard for about 6, 8 years? That and season 5 was out and it was wrapping up. And you know your girl just had to watch the rest. I will say that season 4 and 5 change art styles a bit, and the CGI is not very good. Which is honestly disappointing because the fight scenes in the past were pretty well animated. I also watched the movies, and now that I've watched it all, I realized that Mayuri Judgment foreshadows what Season 5 was going to be. And speaking of Season 5, I guess I can sort of sum up the entirety of the plot with a singular question. Have you ever loved someone so much that when they died, you birthed them back into existence? I love this anime. The world building is amazing. The story's genuinely captivating to me. My one complaint is how Luke is always like, I'm gonna forge a sword, and Cecily's like, I will hold my arms out and distract the enemy. But the enemy just politely waits until Luke is done forging the sword before it even does anything. But aside from that, and the fact that they cannot stop harassing Cecily about her breast size, the anime's pretty good. At the start, Cecily sucks. She's not very good at fighting, and I was a little worried that it was going to just be Luke saving her time and again. But our girl really held out her own against other demon sword users later on. I read that that's different in the manga, where she never sucked at fighting, but since she does in the anime, I'm very glad she got a chance to show that she can learn to fight smarter. Unfortunately, there's just no more of it, and if I want to see any more, I'm just gonna have to read the manga from the start, which is a real shame. Could we just please get a season 2? Maybe make it like a 24 episode season and give it some sort of satisfying ending? Okay, I'll go read the manga. Yes! I'm going absolutely feral over this anime. Love it. Love it. Shiryuki is resourceful. She's strong-willed. The prince, just the right balance of being protective, giving her space. I love it. And I love that they are so obviously in love with each other, and I just wanted to see them kiss each other's stone faces. Go watch it. A3. A surprisingly difficult anime to Google, I swear. The 2 seasons are split into 4 separate 6-episode arcs. And each arc introduces a new cast of boys that learn about each other and learn how to act along the way. Yes, I know it's an anime about acting, but the characters and their relationships with each other should be the driving focus of your stories. Otherwise, you don't care about anything else. The stakes have to matter, right? And I think the show does an okay job of showing these guys to be really likable. My favorite is Citron, though. He makes me smile every time he's on screen. This show really makes me appreciate my time in theater in college, but it's also something of a curse because it makes me realize the moments with bad blocking. Like every moment ever where they cross the arm closest to the audience over their body. Never be profiled to the audience except in very specific situations. It makes it harder for the audience to see you. I'll say that my favorite season is definitely the first, and my favorite group of boys is the Summer Troupe. Their play was the best, their story was the best, and honestly, the little moment where Sherazade ad-libs her final line really sold it to me. I could tell that this anime is likely an adaptation of a dating sim during the 2nd season. The characters are all introduced with these mysterious backgrounds with no real exploration of who they are behind their little character quirk. There are also references to things that the characters seem aware of that aren't actually introduced to the audience. For people who play the game, I'm sure this is a fun little callback to the game they played, but for everyone else, you're just gonna have to roll with it. This anime gives me some mixed feelings. Our girl, whose eyes are never properly drawn when she's overweight, does a weekend-long depression fast, loses weight, and becomes unbelievably pretty. And everyone in the school wants her now, and the main guys vying for her attention are these clowns. Well, that's a little harsh. I like this guy. He seemed perfectly fine with her either way. And look, I'm not saying you can't have a type, alright? You can absolutely prefer someone because of their looks. You want your partner to be attracted to you, right? And your partner wants you to be attracted to them. It makes sense. But to go from being rude to her because she's not skinny to throwing a complete 180 in your attitude towards her is not a comfortable watch. But if you throw that first episode away, the rest of them are pretty decent. I actually think the best episode features the guy I just finished singling out. He is the best older brother in the world. He watches TV with his little sister and knows all the dance moves to the show they watch together? Adorable. Honestly, if I wasn't strictly into women, I would date him. The most attractive thing you can do as a man is not be tied down to outdated ideas of what a man is supposed to be. As for which guy I prefer her to be with, well, I already showed this guy earlier, but I also do like that the one kiss we got in the show was between her and this other lady. Best moment, but I guess it could just be lesbian bias. That said, I actually really like the way the series capped off with our main girl deciding the guy she picked wasn't even real. I started this not quite knowing what I was getting myself into. I had heard some controversy surrounding it, but it's anime. When is there ever not controversy surrounding something? The first episode is not your typical episode. I was almost convinced that the show was just going to be one really long movie, but this was all set up. I need to know things now. I need to know why it had to end the way it did. I have to know. Also, the character shares my name. Yes, a fellow Ruby. Our last names, eerily similar meanings too, but anyway. Yes, it is a little weird that a doctor and cancer patient reincarnated as babies with full memories of their previous life. I think I would share Aqua's discomfort of the nursing stage just because it feels like that's something I'm not meant to witness. Probably because it isn't. Moving on from that, it kills me that Ruby and Aqua knew each other in their previous lives, and they still haven't quite figured it out yet. I desperately need to watch season 2. I'm gonna be honest, I know there's more seasons, but after watching the first one, I can't bring myself to watch any more. The first episode was pretty funny. Dude really committed to getting married to this girl he just spotted on the street. But it's honestly really boring. And I firmly believe you can have a compelling narrative with the main love interests already in a relationship. But I don't think it's this one. It's not particularly charming. The one and only joke they have is that the bathroom girl makes fun of NASA's genitals being small. Ooh, such comedy. I think this anime just proves that I am a miserable person, or at the very least, I enjoy feeling miserable. Fuuka has one of those love triangles that make you feel like rooting for both the girls vying for the guy's affection. Watching it reminded me of the first time I saw Golden Time. Except with that show, I was rooting for the childhood friend like 99% of the time. It sure would be a lot easier if they were poly. Oh well, I enjoy a little bit of romantic drama. What I truly love about Fuuka is Fuuka herself. Her character design, her complicated feelings as a character, the fact that music is her absolute passion. I love Climbers High. Do you love Climbers High? Because you're going to listen to an awful lot. I don't typically listen to an anime opening every time it plays, but this one I couldn't get enough of. And the biggest reward is hearing it sung in the context of the show itself. I remember vaguely while watching the show, before everything wrapped up super nicely, I was yelling for Fuuka to get out of the way of an oncoming vehicle. I was like, girl, you could have died. And then every review I read mentions how different the anime is from the manga. And now I kind of regret that specific choice of words. As a Yuri fan, I am absolutely on board with the idea of a woman about my age playing an otome game and ignoring all the guys that are available in favor of the rival character who is mean to you. God, this show is so endearing. I love how Rei is so straightforward with Claire. I mean, she is so down bad for this girl with such gremlin energy. When she stops to be serious, you can really feel it. Especially a conversation they have early on about sexuality. It makes me feel really seen. I love all the story arcs, especially when Rei uses her knowledge from having played the game before being transported into this world in order to extort the people around her in an effort to maintain Claire's safety. I yearn for a season 2. Please, for the love of God, please give us a season 2. I thought this anime was about a super shy dude who randomly has the hottest girlfriend who does cosplay and how lucky he is to be dating her. Not saying that that can't be a cute dynamic, but it would sort of relegate him to just being a nondescript stand-in. Boy, was I glad to be wrong. Wakana is such a wonderful character. I am so glad that a lot of the anime puts a big focus on him. He's kind, hardworking, and he is the one that makes all the outfits. When I realized this, I was absolutely shocked. This anime absolutely crushing gender norms by giving us a straight guy who has a conventionally feminine craft and really thriving as an individual, while also battling some past demons where girls found him kinda creepy. I think the funniest thing about this anime is how he's easily flustered being too close to Marine's body. He doesn't ever want to overstep his boundaries. But on the other hand, he is hilariously comfortable saying the most outrageously sexual things in the most casual manner. I love Wakana. Best character. I love them. Look at them. Look at them. Can I just rant for a sec? It's so obvious that they love each other, like super obvious. I love that it's not just a romance. There's also this war going on, and Izetta has magic powers she uses to basically fight fictional Nazi Germany. But I absolutely admire Izetta's love and devotion to Finé. They all go, well, of course you love the Duchess, you're good friends. No, she loves her and makes that pretty apparent. The biggest problem that I have with Izetta the Last Witch is that the one and only time we get a close-up on a kiss, it's where she gets sexually assaulted by a member of the opposing force who interrupted their dance, might I add. I just wanted to see them dance. Let them dance. I mean, look at them. They're so cute together. And Finé's so princely. And you wouldn't give us a dance? Why? And yeah, they do eventually go on a broom ride late at night, have a very brief 2-frame kiss that if you blink you miss it, and there's just this clever little jump cut that implies a lot of time passed, so perhaps they were passionately making love, but come on, we couldn't have a close-up of them kissing? Like, don't get me wrong, watching that broom slowly descend the way it did was, chef's kiss, but come on. I just wanted to watch them dance. I need more of them. I love them so much. They're my wallpaper on my phone. The fan artists treat me so well. I love all of you out there that understand how I feel. Thank you for your service. You're all angels. I love them. So I guess I gotta talk about this one. I had avoided this anime for the longest time because I heard it was just pure torture. And then a friend was like, it's not that bad, and all the weird fetish stuff is heavily cut from the anime version. And so we began watching. The anime is a good laugh fest near the beginning, recovering this strange boy from the shallows of the abyss named Reg. This little girl, Riko, has this little book that she keeps all these notes in. I will tell you, there's some scenes in the beginning that made me do a double take or give an odd look, and I couldn't help but notice a little line in her notebook. There's just no way it's pointing where I think it is, right? That would imply she took his clothes off. No way. This boy. This poor boy. Oh, Reg. The obsession everyone has over this poor boy's penis. I think it's just amusing to me because Riko is so blunt about it. Like it's the most normal thing in the world to be taking extensive notes like that. And hearing Reg's disdain over it gets a good chuckle out of me. That's where it all kind of ends because, yeah, the show is pain. I have so many feelings about this anime, and I think I just wanted to talk about something I found a little amusing because I needed a little cushion before I talk about the ways this anime affected me. Seeing the effects of the abyss, knowing that there will come a point of no return, knowing what happens to people who ascend, even within the confines of the abyss layers themselves, gives me such strong feelings of dread every time they get to a lower layer. Riko is the most vulnerable character in our little group of adventurers. Reg is unaffected. Nanachi, who I will talk about in a moment, can see and avoid the curse. Riko's just a girl who at any time can be killed by the effects of the curse. And the only choice she really has is to keep moving down, because that's where her mom is, and because the abyss calls to her. In actuality, the abyss seems to call to everyone, its reaches being terrifyingly widespread as seen in the second season with its promise of gold. I am already a mess, so let's talk about Nanachi. This fluffy and adorable creature was once a child too, who was essentially culled as part of an experiment for this piece of shit Bondrude. Nanachi's love for her best friend's love for her, the mercy killing. It's so much to take in, and to learn that Bondrude basically harvests children and dissects them so that he can freely move around the abyss. I was so fired up when I saw Nanachi and Reg kill this guy. I am not exaggerating when I say that my friends had like a groomer's tier list, and my immediate ranking for him was straight to hell. I hate this man. I hate this man with every fiber of my being. I don't care if he actually loved these children. His sense of love is so twisted. You don't take someone as precious as this girl here and cut her into pieces for fuel. That's monstrous. And God, it doesn't end, does it? Don't worry, I think this is as bad as it gets. The second season isn't as bad, my friend says, and it literally starts off with a girl getting raped by countless men. And the little girl she basically adopts when she arrives at where the island that the abyss is located, the way that this girl feels, that she's broken because she's infertile. Excuse me, but she's a child. How the fuck do they know she's infertile exactly? And the fact that she refers to Veiko as having a familiar smell because she also smells like a bunch of men. Oh, it's just torture. I just want them to be happy, and I will only ever find that in fan art. The horrible, horrible people in this anime. The horrible, horrible wishes granted by the abyss. The pain they all endure. The twisted and fucked up ways that the things they want are interpreted and granted to them. The sins committed, the everything, and yet, it's beautiful. This is perhaps the most beautiful anime I have seen, because even through all the pain and suffering and sheer agony, there is that small glimmer of beauty that absolutely shines through. What is worth? What is love? How do we keep moving forward, and why? And will it be worth it in the end? I don't know, but I can say that the journey, the bonds that we build with one another, those things are priceless. I know I typically separate fiction and reality, and I allow my anime to indulge in a little bit of taboo here and there. I typically enjoy exploring those things because, believe it or not, it's a normal human behavior, but I couldn't with this one. It seems fairly grounded. I actually really love the character designs and the way it's animated, but I hated this guy. I can't stand him. He keeps pushing himself on this girl the entire first episode, doesn't take a hint, and the only reason he's in the picture is because this creep is following our main heroine. And the second episode, she's like, no, I don't want you to kiss me. And the dude's plan to convince her that actually, yes, she does, is to kiss her against her will. Like, dude, stop. She's actively resisting you. I'm a fan of spontaneous kissing and romance. I'm even a fan of a surprise kiss quelling animosity. But this just rubbed me the wrong way. And after my friends say that that wasn't what made them hate the anime, but something later in the series, I was like, you know what? I'm out. As far as premises go, I gotta say I'm a fan. 2 warring factions, the most promising forces within each, actually just want to put an end to the war and bring peace to everybody. And they often meet in non-combat zones by accident and end up going on dates. It's pretty cool. I like how they joined forces to take on threats that basically affect everybody. There is a second season, but it kind of just stops after episode 4. Apparently it's due to the creator needing time to flesh out the story. So in the meantime, I wish them well. And they were roommates. The anime. Except it's a straight couple. So we take Iki, dubbed the worst one, because he ranks the absolute lowest of all the Blazers. That's a special term applied to this universe's knights. And you pit him against a very promising young woman who is super powerful and ranks pretty high, and you get some magic. Iki is interesting because he keeps moving forward out of sheer spite. He has nothing special like everyone else. He has to work 10 times as hard to get where he's at, and he has to accommodate for the fact that everyone he fights has a special innate ability, and he kicks their butts through sheer willpower and fighting know-how. He actually gains so much respect, they rename him halfway through this series. So we have a couple of romances. One between him and Stella, his roommate, and the other one is incest. The kiss took me by surprise. Shizuka's feelings are very strong and also probably born from spite towards the rest of her family. You can't help but feel a little sorry for her. This anime also features an honest-to-God trans character, and she's not played as a joke. Yeah, some of the characters act very confused by Alice's assertion that she is no man, but honestly, Alice herself is never the butt of any sort of transphobic joke, something I am actually very happy about. The anime doesn't really continue past the 1 season, and while there might be more story to tell, I'm actually satisfied where it ended. It's pretty rare to have endings like that, but I appreciate Chivalry of a Failed Knight for having a story to tell and giving us a satisfying arc that leaves room for us to assume it only goes on from here, without giving you this feeling that only another season can resolve. Good job. Asterisk War starts off exactly the same as Chivalry of a Failed Knight, but I genuinely thought the first episode of the other show was better, so I dropped this one. Plus, the main guy isn't nearly as interesting. He just doesn't have the same drawback as Iki. It's not every day that an anime starts at the end of a grand quest. A premise such as this is greatly underestimated because there is so much potential for story. I wanted a story that asks, how do you move on and adapt to a normal life after the grand quest is over? Is it hard? What are the challenges you face with that? Is there a PTSD associated? Well, I don't quite think that Frieren is that story, but it does mean that this is someone's chance to tell it. What makes Frieren so interesting is she kinda does just go about her life as normal, until she has to come to grips with the fact that the people who she originally thought were just a small speck in her long lifespan actually meant a lot more to her than she realized, and they're all gone now. It's too early for me to tell, but Frieren may still be a story about closure. There is indeed another quest of sorts to undertake, but the form it takes continues to give context to the last one. Really smart storytelling. There is a can of worms this anime opens up with the demon characters. I felt very uncertain about the general message of what a demon was, but I sort of accepted that I would just be a very easy victim as intended. I actually had someone in this discourse say that I would basically take Himmel's stance, give them a chance until they show their hand. Due to recent events, however, I have a new take. There are certain human beings that end lives of several other innocent souls, all for self-gain. And when their life is snuffed out, the number of people who defend them saying, well, they had a family too. I keep going back to the demons from Frieren who hide behind the shield of faux humanity in order to remain predators who kill the vulnerable. And I think if you see them that way, instead of framing it through the lens of being a racial group, it starts to click. Being a Yuri fan is hard. This is a hard watch. I kept watching it because I hoped that something would turn around and change, but it's pretty obvious that Bloom Into You is an unfinished story. While I understand the manga does exist, I want to talk strictly about the anime experience being rough. You watch anime because you want to see it in motion. You want to hear the voices. You want to hear the music underscoring the drama. And it's really hard to properly see this as a Yuri. I see it as an aromantic girl, Yu, who allows herself to be a plaything for another girl. She doesn't really enjoy anything they do. She's often actually pretty annoyed. And the other girl only wants to love her if she isn't loved back. All the while you think she's broken because she doesn't feel that spark like she experiences when she reads manga. And that's an interesting thing to focus on because there's actually nothing wrong with that. Being asexual or aromantic is normal. It doesn't mean you're broken. But I just feel really cheated by this anime because it doesn't actually explore that. I love stories about broken people feeling lost and finding their way. Imperfect people making decisions that don't make sense is great. I love that. Occasionally, it's done really well in indie films at the very least. But when you don't explore your characters in a satisfying way, it leaves a lot to be desired. I can't recommend the anime, so go read the manga instead. A very weird anime, but it knows what it is. Super weird. And never before have I heard the term mega playboy said in such a serious, not serious manner. Did you know Dan Green is in the dub? He's hilarious. Love his performance. Tomoko's voice actor, on the other hand, might be why dubs have such a bad reputation. You're not missing anything if you don't watch it, but it's definitely in the so bad it's good category of anime. Yes, the McRonald's crew is back, and I forgot most of the first season. We get a little baby to join the cast, and our Heroes vs. Devil takes on a brand new twist of the fantastical blended with the domesticated. Joint custody. This season was twice as long as the first, which I found unusual, but you know what? It was a welcome conclusion to the series. Adachi wakes up on his 30th birthday and learns that he can read the mind of anyone he comes into contact with, and soon discovers that his coworker has the biggest crush on him. I love the gay. The gay is everything. Poor, quiet Adachi just getting assaulted by this handsome guy's poker face, hiding the thoughts of him just gushing over him. It's honestly so cute. I love this man. There's also this little side story of Adachi's writer friend also having the same power, which allows them to talk to each other with their thoughts. Never knowing the touch of another person sure does bring a surprising power of intimacy along with it. I can't tell if it's fate or irony. Highly recommend. A Place Further Than the Universe is the first time I've seen an anime with a story centered around Antarctica. I mean, the story really could take place anywhere because all that actually matters is the emotion attached to it. But when you consider the specific challenges attached to such a journey, the restrictions that would be placed on you as a Japanese high school student, and the sense from the main character that she isn't really doing anything with her life, it almost has to be something like Antarctica, doesn't it? This anime uses the classic trope of 4 anime girls who unite under a common goal and become friends through their shared connection and share parts of themselves that are otherwise different. Favorite character? Hinata. I can relate to her with being a school dropout due to kids spreading rumors about you. I think her design is great. She's also the silly one of the group. I don't know, I just find her the easiest to relate to. That doesn't mean that the main emotional drive with Shirase isn't moving. It absolutely is, and honestly, it's touching to know that she isn't the only one affected by her loss. While I was watching, there was one character I joked about being the friend whose whole existence would pretty much be written off the moment the journey started. But I am glad that we did get some sort of resolution with her. I'm glad they didn't actually forget about her. If you want to watch a heartfelt journey, I definitely recommend this one. Not your typical harem anime, in that instead of all the girls fighting for the affection of the singular main leading man, they're all in a loving polyamorous relationship, and I love that! This anime is so off the wall funny, and while it has your classic dating sim character types, it's still pretty fun to see them all interacting with one another. And honestly, even though they are dating Rentaro, I could see ways in which the girls might actually pair up with each other as well. My favorite is Karane in a general sense, but she's so cute. Her little quirk of using book passages to speak, and the text-to-speech app is the cutest darn thing. My favorite episode features the main cast becoming kiss zombies. It's so funny. But also, even as zombies, the girls act so wholesomely towards Shizuka, who is handled in the funniest way. I'm so sorry, she's just so cute. Oh, and Karane and Hakari kiss, and I guarantee they might probably do much more of that in later seasons. But, you know, that's just me. I'm just excited to see a harem anime where everyone gets along. So this anime was not quite what I thought it was going to be. Imagine if Avatar was combined with The Truman Show, or pretty much any other game show where the contestants don't know they are in a game, or rather just one contestant doesn't know while the rest of them do. But now, turn it into a game where death to a contestant only matters if it's the one that doesn't know. Can you imagine how it must be to grow up as a race facing extinction? And the ongoing threat to humanity was just a game to the people around you. If they die, they just respawn, no big deal. You die? Now that's a big deal. This twist is learned pretty early on though. They sort of have to reveal it if they want to maintain the one who knows as a good guy. Otherwise, he'd just be a villain. Kind of like how in Passengers, Chris Pratt's character wakes up another passenger because he's lonely, and the movie sets up his character first so we, the audience, can sort of justify the action on an emotional level so that the movie doesn't randomly turn into a thriller. Go watch Nerdwriter's video about that, by the way. It's amazing. The psychology behind all of this is what makes the show worth watching. For Kaburagi, it's just a game. For Natsume, the monsters out there are very real threats that have ended her father's life and will eventually move on to killing her friends. She wants to fight to protect her home. How do you, a guy who plays for a high score, live with yourself knowing that the NPC is a living, breathing human whose life can't be reset like yours? It's a pretty good show. Give it a watch. Look, this video is getting way too long. I thought the premise was promising and was disappointed by the execution. Just didn't hold up my attention and I dropped it. You know, the first episode would have you believe that Rosette is not very competent, but that is largely untrue as it turns out, and I'm very happy for that. I think the series just starts out with a comedic tone to help ease you into the overall serious nature the anime takes later on. If you like evil dudes kissing the main hero, you're in luck, cause like this dude won't stop kissing her. Should have been Kronos, you know? Should have been him. At least this weirdo, who has an obsession with fondling all the nuns' breasts, doesn't have too much screen time being a raging sex pest. I really like when anime plays with religious mythology. Like, whether you're a person of faith or not, there are aspects of this that I think are embellished or changed from the source material that up the stakes quite a bit and add to the entertainment. One thing that I can really appreciate about this anime in particular is that they do honor the consequences of those stakes. There is a price to be paid for every action, and they don't shy away from that. A truly wonderful and bittersweet anime. I randomly stumbled across this movie. I think it's actually currently available to watch on YouTube for free. So I highly recommend you go watch it now if you're a sucker for the sentimental. And wow, is this movie really good at playing with your feelings. I was watching this movie with people around me, and I had such a hard time keeping in the tears. I wept audibly. I know AI is a bit of a hot topic, and most all of us who have anti-AI stances generally agree that AI art is not art, because generative AI isn't actually a real form of intelligence. It can't make decisions. Doesn't understand the work that it is producing. It can't be art because there's nothing deliberate about what it does. There's no choice involved. With fiction, however, we often use AI, robots, and the like as stand-ins for the human experience, a form of life that doesn't quite understand but is compelled to learn, to understand, and to feel. So for me, an anime about a robot girl whose brain is created by AI that loves to break out into song like she's in a musical makes sense to me. She's innocent, naive, and wants to please her sister, Satomi. I say sister because the AI was developed by her mom, sort of, but you should just watch the movie to get what I mean. The way that this story communicates a heartfelt wish from one human being to another is why I really enjoy this movie. Because in the end, that's really what this story is about. This is going to sound really strange. I know that all anime, with few exception, pretty much always feature Japanese characters, but they're typically highly stylized. So while I was watching this, I was really taken aback at how distinctly Japanese all the characters look. I really appreciate this change of pace in the art style to make the characters appear a little more grounded, which is pretty funny considering there are fantastical elements to this story. Apparently, this movie took 7 years to make, and it shows. Every frame is beautifully animated, and the story isn't half bad. If you love beautifully animated films that cover themes such as loss, familial estrangement, and you like spirit shenanigans, this is the movie for you. So I made a new friend some time ago, and she said, we should watch a movie together. What kind of movies do you like? And we planned to see something together, and this was the movie we wanted to see. So I saved the image of the anime so I could look it up in a couple years to see if it was available as a DVD. Fast forward a bit, and we finally got our chance to watch it. I will admit that I do not have the easiest time maintaining connections with friends. I seem to always reach out and then feel alone when no one checks back in. However, we're all adults and we all have jobs, responsibilities. Most of my other friends have families that they go see or have to take care of, you know? They're busy. So this girl, being the lonely soul that she is, really hit me. But the other thing that got to me was the fear I felt while watching this. Kokoro isn't just lonely, she actively avoids school. And honestly, I'm going to absolutely side with her on this. There's a scene where this really petty girl spreads a lie about her, and all of her classmates chase her to her house, and she has no option but to lock all the doors and wait for them to go away, all while you hear them threatening her. It is horrifying and brings back many unpleasant memories of my own. Except I sort of lived with my problem and spent most of my time with my bedroom door closed so I wouldn't have to interact with my stepdad more than I had to, and speaking of that, I'm glad it wasn't this level. I feel horrible for anyone who has ever had to suffer through that. I hear more stories of this happening than I would like, and it's a sad thing that happens every day and I really wish it didn't. I do think one of the weak points of this movie is it does not properly focus on all of the children. However, the ones it does choose to exclusively put more emphasis on do help tell a more cohesive story. So it's a double-edged sword. All the same, this movie moved me to tears, and I think this was the catalyst to telling my new friend of mine her first platonic I love you. Like, a movie shouldn't be the reason that you learn to appreciate your friends. I already appreciated her, but since I hardly got to talk to her and I was pretty emotionally charged by the end of it, which you'd understand if you saw the movie, I wanted to be the one to say how much I cherished our friendship. So for that, I give it a full score. I saw the title for this and thought, that's hilarious. I need to see this. And boy, was I right. Murder Princess actually turned out to be better than what I wanted. But because I saw it, I ended up wanting more. It's surprisingly short. I was a little confused at the start of it. I thought there was going to be a time skip of a sort that would explain how the princess suddenly became so badass. But the reality of it all was honestly a pleasant surprise, because I have never felt more disappointed that I don't hear people talk about this anime. Look at these two. They were freaking made for each other. I need them. I have a need for them that almost rivals my need for more Izetta and Finé content. Like, look at this clip.
So you want me to be crowned and rule this whole kingdom? You're sure asking a lot of a bounty hunter, you know.
I've given a lot too. You have your compensation, right? I've given you me. My entire self. Just command me, and I'll obey.
There is no heterosexual explanation for that, okay? Oh, what, you want more? Yeah, me too, but hey, at least we got this.
I know it's weird to see your body with someone else in it, but you can't keep staring at me all the time like that. It's creeping me out.
It's my face, but somebody else behind the eyes. Isn't that amazing?
I love them. I fully support this body swap ship. Make it happen, fan artists. We need to unite to make them kiss. The show's so good. Go watch it. I rate this one, needs more lesbian, out of 10. Hey, another anime movie. Surely you know the drill, right? It's a movie about kids learning about each other and letting go of past grievances so they can come together to find their way back home. It's classic, it's otherworldly, it takes place in an abandoned district that inexplicably becomes a vessel out at sea. Go watch it. What happens when you take a concept and fill it with as much brain rot as humanly possible? I don't know, actually. My Dear Friend Nokotan is an anime that tries its hardest to be funny, and while I do think it does succeed in many ways, when it's not making me laugh from shock value jokes, it leaves me pretty bored. But hey, my friend Shakyra got to voice 2 characters in the dub, and I think that's pretty cool. Good for her, she killed it. If you aren't familiar with Shakyra, look her up on YouTube. She goes by Seer of Words, and she helped me with 2 separate Persona dubs. She's great. Every time she gets another role in something, I cannot stop being proud of her. I'm here to deliver some bad luck. He's so cool. I remember seeing so many images of the character for this show and reading one chapter in an issue of Shonen Jump. I wanted to watch this anime, and I don't really know why it took me this long to do it, but I'm glad I did. Now, I know I've been harping on some lesbian stuff. I get it. You're probably tired of it, but this man, this guy right here, is obsessed. He is so gay for Train Hartnett that his affection for him is pretty much the entire plot of the show. Don't believe me? Go watch it. I dare you to give me a non-gay explanation for his behavior. It ain't happening. He has a one-sided gay crush on the main character, and he's making it everybody's problem. On a side note, Train himself is something of an enigma. He goes from dark and brooding to happy-go-lucky a little too quickly. I guess they wanted him to be a foil to Eve, who is typically pretty deadpan, but I can't say for sure. I didn't write the show. Speaking of Eve, I was a little worried that she just became a background character after her initial arc resolved. She got some more to do near the end, with this little annoying prick. Leave her be, you persistent pest. Jeez, she was having fun before you cut in. Some guys, no understanding of the way other people feel. Of course, I'm also a little confused about Eve's feelings. They seem to try to imply that perhaps she has feelings for Sven, but the extent to what those feelings are vague? Surely they're not romantic, right? That'd be kinda weird, wouldn't it? He's like her dad. I can already hear Sven's annoyance with me for saying that. Not that he's interested in her like that. He just has a habit of insisting he's not old. It sounds like something an old person would say. Is anyone familiar with that Jet video about this anime? Yeah, I think I had the same exact reaction to this part of the anime that he did. I really enjoy BNA, don't get me wrong, but it really did undermine its own message. I also thought it was super weird how Michiru kept referring to her animal transformation as some kind of disease? And it was also super odd how they live in a city full of beasts, and they have a festival to celebrate being beastmen, their unique individualistic quality that separate them from the rest of humanity. After all, this city is their safe haven. But nobody actually walks around in their beast form. Michiru and her friend are the only ones that do that. Why is that? I know the explanation they give, but that's probably why the message of the show feels undercut by the rules of the world building. If there was ever a time to break those rules, it would be in this show. Hinamatsuri is such a funny anime. Not only is it funny, it's also incredibly heartwarming at times. This show is capable of making me laugh and cry, sometimes both at once. The only thing that I think is strange about Hinamatsuri is pretty much every character is far more interesting than Hina herself. But it is sort of because of Hina that they end up where they are. Though I do think it's sad when I can really get engaged with a character after just one episode, but Hina gets so many and she just doesn't grow as a character. Really unfortunate, but all the same, it's a super good show. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you see it. Horimiya starts off with this simple premise, seeing another side of someone else. And it's actually quite cute that Hori wants to be the only one who gets to see the true side of Miyamura. The two of them actually enter a relationship pretty early on in the series, and it kind of goes from there. But it slowly introduces other characters and their relationships with each other, which is not a bad move, by the way, because it lets Miyamura reach the conclusion that he does by the end of season 1, and I really like that. My one critique of Horimiya is I was hoping to see more of Miyamura with his piercings in. I know he doesn't wear them at school, but I was kinda hoping to see more of him all decked out whenever he would just spend time with Hori, but he doesn't. And then he ends up cutting his hair. To me, this feels like he ends up conforming to society a little bit by the end. It would be nice to see him sporting more piercings after they graduate, but I hear that in the manga they sort of explained the piercings were a form of self-harm, so I'm very divided on how I feel about that. I suppose if it's a decision he has made because it makes him happier, then I'm all for it. I just hope that the message isn't conforming helps you fit in, because the original charm of the show is seeing sides to someone beyond what you think you know, and that would be a bit of a betrayal. I don't think they're saying that. I think he genuinely was opening up more, and this was just a natural progression of that, but still, it's hard to say. I really just wanted to judge it on anime alone, but I feel like maybe it isn't fair to do that this time. I will say though that Horimiya is very heartfelt. I love pretty much all the characters, except this guy. They're all charming and pretty lovable, and I want to root for all of them. I just want them all to be happy because the show really makes you care about them all. Another thing I really love about this show is the stylistic choice of having a solid color silhouette of the character sort of drift off to the side during more heartfelt moments when they connect to each other. I think it's artistically beautiful, and I also think it helps the idea of seeing a side you don't normally see. Pieces is good too. It's the second season, but it's pretty much all the filler arcs that don't make the cut to season 1. It's still enjoyable, not an episode skipped. If they rearranged the episodes and just made it one long season, I'd be okay with that. If there's one thing I learned from watching this show, is how often I can repeat a joke without fail. Mugen wants to chase some lady for a night of pleasure? I mean, sure, I'm not gonna stop you, but it's almost guaranteed that any woman Mugen is interested in is trouble. Fu? This poor girl. I swear I couldn't help but notice that she got kidnapped a lot. I actually would celebrate if there was an episode where she didn't. She often felt kind of sidelined at times, which was sad because she's the reason the plot even moves anywhere to begin with, but, you know. It's an anime with sword fights. and she doesn't do that. She's reserved for the more emotional moments, and honestly, that's fine. That doesn't mean she's the only one who gets emotional moments. Mugen gets some too. He's kind of an ass, but he has his moments. My real favorite is Jean. You learn about him real slowly, but when a story focuses on him, I just vastly enjoy it. Most of the time he acts as Mugen's foil, and I like that dynamic. Something that occurred to me about halfway through is how interesting it was to just watch them travel and react to the situations they find themselves in, and see character depth that way. But other than that, you don't really know much about them. They don't even know that much about each other, but that's probably what makes their dynamic so interesting. Their motives still enable them to travel together, and that's pretty neat. So, I thought this show was going to be way different. I was actually kind of surprised how unhinged the very first 5 minutes were. I can see a lot of people being turned off by this anime because the first few minutes are a lot. The story is about a writer who has a sister complex, and he just enjoys writing trashy light novels that predominantly feature male leads with doting younger sisters who may or may not be in a relationship. And this guy's all like, man, it sure would be nice if I actually had a sister. And I'm just staring at the screen like, what about Chihiro? Isn't she your sister? Wait, did I just hear someone call her Ki? Well, alright then. I just assumed that Chihiro was a feminine name. I suppose I was wrong, until it turns out I was right. And that never really gets resolved in the anime. That's something you'd have to read the manga for, I'm sure. Everything else about the anime covers the relationship this guy has with 2 other writers and a friend from a college he dropped out of. There's some fun games the characters all play together. I don't know why, but I always find segments like these in an anime really fun. Gives you a chance to see how they think. Another writing anime, except not quite. When I watched the intro, I just assumed that the 2 leads were a married couple that worked on a manga together, and I thought, A Galaxy Next Door! What a clever name that references their job. You know, normal slice of life stuff. Turns out I was wrong. They're literally linked by a galaxy that only the 2 of them see each other in. All because he touched her stinger. And now they have to get married. Is this why she never had friends growing up? Like, seriously, is it more than just the mom being restrictive? Anyway, the show is pretty cute. Their relationship is also this constantly evolving thing that I think is fun to watch, but there's always this really uncomfortable question lurking in the background. Are they actually in love, or is this some Marco Red Moon nonsense? Which is to say, do they just think they're in love? I'm okay with where things left off, but we sincerely need more anime that feature married couples. I promise that this can work. The Big O is an anime that I have known to have existed for quite a while now, but I have failed to watch until just recently. The first 2 episodes really bring you in, and by the 3rd you might be thinking, oh, they drew me in with the big robot fights, and now they've tricked me into watching an anime with political commentary. But you would be wrong. This show knows why you're watching it, and it delivers. About every single episode is guaranteed to have Big O make an appearance. I do have some issues with it, mostly pertaining to how Dorothy seems like a secondary character who is largely forgotten by the plot, but if you are like me and you haven't seen the show, I would highly suggest giving it a watch. Then every time you go to the supermarket, you and I can share a little joke about produce. And that is it. I might release more thought pieces on anime I watch and how they affected me, and maybe tune up the formula to be a little better. I'm not really an anime review channel. I just wanted to share my experience getting back into anime, what worked and what didn't. But that said, this video is already long enough and I don't want to take up any more of your time, so thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.